The idea of retirement has been sold to us like a dream, the ultimate freedom, the end of work, and the beginning of a blissful existence, free from the burdens of daily grind. It's a vision so deeply embedded in the fabric of our society that we accept it without question. But what if this freedom is nothing more than an illusion? Picture this. You've worked tirelessly for decades, putting in the hours, the sweat, and the sacrifice, with the promise that one day you will be rewarded. No more early mornings, no more emails after hours, no more bosses telling you what to do. Instead, you'll wake up to endless leisure, the freedom to travel, the time to pursue your passions. This is the dream we've been sold, isn't it? But let me ask you this. What happens when you finally reach that golden age of retirement, only to discover that the life you've been promised is hollow? What if the very thing we believe will set us free is the thing that actually binds us? What if retirement is not a gift, but a trap designed to keep us complacent, passive, and under control? In the words of Alan Watts, a philosopher who dedicated his life to exploring the nature of freedom, the only freedom is the freedom to be yourself. Yet we've been conditioned to think that freedom means stepping away from our responsibilities, that it means escaping work and obligation. But does it? Or is true freedom something much deeper, something that we've been systematically led to overlook? This opening question doesn't just challenge the concept of retirement, it challenges the very idea of freedom itself. What if everything you've been told about freedom and retirement is not only wrong, but intentionally designed to keep you in a perpetual state of yearning and dissatisfaction? In the next few minutes, we'll dive into the truth behind this lie and explore why it's time to rethink what freedom truly means. To truly understand the illusion of retirement and freedom, we must first uncover its origins. The concept of retirement as we know it today didn't always exist. It's a relatively modern invention, and one that was crafted by society's elite, not for the benefit of the individual, but for the benefit of a system. Let's rewind the clock. The idea of stepping away from work to live out your final years in leisure wasn't a common aspiration in pre-industrial societies. People worked until they physically could no longer do so, with few options for what we now call retirement. In fact, for much of human history, the elderly were often viewed as a source of wisdom, remaining active and contributing to society. But as the Industrial Revolution reshaped the landscape of work, everything changed. In the 19th century, a German chancellor by the name of Otto von Bismarck introduced the first state pension system in 1889. The goal was simple: provide workers with a form of economic security when they could no longer work. But Bismarck's intentions were more than just compassionate. His introduction of retirement benefits was designed to placate the working class, offering them a small consolation in exchange for their labor. By instituting a pension system, Bismarck ensured that the working class remained compliant, believing that the state had their best interests in mind. But let's not be naive. This was not an act of benevolence, it was a calculated move. You see, retirement benefits weren't meant to empower the individual, they were meant to control them. By creating the idea of retirement, society was able to maintain a steady flow of labor during the productive years and ensure that people would become docile once they could no longer contribute economically. The message was clear: work hard for decades, contribute to the system, and then, when you've given enough, you will be rewarded. But this reward isn't freedom. It's a carefully constructed cage. Fast forward to the 20th century, and we see how the concept of retirement evolved into a cultural norm. The rise of corporate America, alongside the industrial age, took Bismarck's original pension system and turned it into a marketing campaign. Advertisements, propaganda, and government policies all worked in unison to sell the idea that retirement was the pinnacle of success, a well-earned prize after a lifetime of hard labor. But who really benefits from this narrative? The answer is not the workers, but the institutions that perpetuate this system: the corporations, the banks, the government, each with their own stake in keeping you working, saving, and waiting. They benefit by controlling your expectations, making you believe that there is an end in sight, when, in reality, this freedom is nothing more than a manufactured myth. When you finally reach the point of retirement, you realize the truth. The system you've been a part of doesn't actually care about your happiness or fulfillment. It only cares that you've spent your productive years paying into it. And now, as you're left to reap the benefits, you're often met with a sense of emptiness, a realization that the reward you've been promised isn't what you expected. To truly understand why the idea of retirement traps us, we must delve into the psychological dynamics of work and purpose. We live in a world that constantly defines us by what we do for a living. From the moment we are old enough to comprehend the world around us, we are taught that our worth is directly tied to our productivity, our success, and our role in the workforce. And as we grow older, we are led to believe that freedom comes when we earn the right to stop working, that retirement is the key to freedom. But what happens when you finally reach retirement and find that the feeling of freedom is elusive, or worse, absent? This isn't a random occurrence. It's the result of years of psychological conditioning that leaves us unprepared for life after work. And here lies the core of the issue. The pursuit of retirement doesn't just affect our daily routines, it impacts our very understanding of who we are. At the heart of this psychological dilemma is what psychologists call the identity trap. The moment we start identifying ourselves with our careers, whether as a doctor, lawyer, teacher, or business person, we tie our sense of purpose and self-worth to the work we do. Work becomes more than just a means of earning a living. It becomes a reflection of our identity. The pursuit of success and achievement becomes ingrained in our psyche. As we chase promotions, accolades, and recognition, we feel validated. But what happens when the work ends? What happens when the very thing that gave us meaning and purpose for decades is suddenly taken away? This is the terrifying void that many retirees experience, the loss of identity. Without the framework of work, without the titles and roles that define them, people often struggle to find new meaning. The idea that one's life can have purpose outside of their job becomes alien, almost inconceivable. Take, for example, the famous psychologist Abraham Maslow and his hierarchy of needs. At the top of this hierarchy lies self-actualization, the realization of one's fullest potential. But what Maslow failed to account for is that many people's sense of self-actualization is bound to external factors like their job, their career, and the external validation they receive. When that validation disappears in retirement, self-actualization remains elusive. This is not just a theoretical concept, it's a reality for many who've followed the path of hard work, then freedom. Take the example of retirees who enter retirement only to experience a sudden, sharp decline in mental and physical health. Studies show that retirement can often lead to depression, anxiety, and a feeling of purposelessness. The loss of a role, the loss of structure, and the loss of meaning are not easily replaced. So why do we continue to buy into this lie? The simple answer is because we've been conditioned to. We've been led to believe that happiness and fulfillment lie in the promise of a carefree retirement. But in truth, the more we buy into the narrative that work is something to escape from, the more we distance ourselves from true fulfillment. Our modern society teaches us that work is something we must endure, that it's a burden that stands in the way of our ultimate freedom. But the truth is far more complex. Work can be a source of meaning, creativity, and personal growth if we allow it to be. The key is not to escape work, but to find purpose in it, to engage in work that is aligned with our true passions and values. The lie of retirement tells us that work is an obstacle to freedom. The truth is, work can be the very thing that leads us to it. Alan Watts, a philosopher who explored the depths of human consciousness and the nature of freedom, offers a perspective that shatters the conventional understanding of retirement and what it truly means to be free. According to Watts, the fundamental misconception that plagues our society is the belief that freedom is something we can achieve by escaping our responsibilities, by escaping work. But Watts would argue that this is not freedom at all. Freedom, Watts famously said, is not something that can be given. It is something that must be taken, something that must be realized within. His words cut through the noise of society's promises, urging us to look deeper at what it means to be truly free. For Watts, freedom is not about retirement or the cessation of work. It's about living in alignment with your true nature, embracing the flow of life and rejecting the artificial constraints that society imposes upon us. This realization is at the heart of Watts's philosophy. In one of his lectures, he described how society has conditioned us to view life as a linear journey, one that begins with schooling, then work, and ends in retirement. This path, we are told, is the only way to live a successful and fulfilling life. But Watts saw it differently. He saw this trajectory as a trap, a system that feeds off our labor and leaves us feeling empty when we finally arrive at the point we've been conditioned to strive for. Retirement, he argued, was not the end of the journey, but a manifestation of the problem itself. It is the belief that we must escape life's responsibilities to be free, and in that escape, we lose the very essence of what it means to live freely. Instead of seeing freedom as the absence of work or responsibility, Watts proposed that true freedom comes from embracing the present moment. Freedom, he argued, is not a destination, but a state of mind, a state where we no longer feel bound by the expectations of society, where we can act in accordance with our own inner desires and values. The freedom Watts speaks of is the freedom to express ourselves fully, to live authentically without the fear of judgment or the pressure to conform to societal norms. This idea challenges everything we've been taught. The culture of retirement, which promises freedom through the cessation of work, is actually based on the false premise that work itself is inherently bad, that it is something to escape. But what if work is not the enemy? What if the real issue is not the work itself, but the way we've been conditioned to view it? Watts believed that work could be an act of creativity, of self-expression, if only we saw it as such. True freedom, he argued, comes when we stop seeing work as a burden and start seeing it as an opportunity to express our fullest selves. Imagine, for a moment, a life where you don't have to wait until retirement to experience freedom. Imagine living in a way that aligns with your passions, where your work is not something you escape from, but something that energizes and fulfills you. Watts believed this is the essence of freedom, embracing life fully with all its challenges, its ups and downs, and its moments of joy and pain. It's about engaging with life in a way that feels authentic to who you truly are, rather than merely conforming to the roles society has set out for you. This shift in perspective isn't just theoretical, it's practical. By understanding freedom in this way, we can begin to reframe our relationship with work. We can start to see work not as a means to an end, but as an integral part of our existence, something that contributes to our sense of purpose, creativity, and self-fulfillment. We no longer have to wait for retirement to experience freedom. True freedom can be experienced at any stage of life, as long as we choose to live authentically, in alignment with our values, and in full embrace of the present moment. As we explore the psychological and philosophical depths of freedom and retirement, we are confronted with a hard truth. The promise of retirement often leads to a crisis rather than a celebration. For many, the end of work does not bring the happiness and freedom they were promised. Instead, it often leads to a sense of emptiness, a lack of direction, and even depression. This modern-day crisis is not a coincidence. It is the inevitable result of buying into the myth of retirement. Consider the stories of countless retirees who, after decades of hard work, step into the world of leisure, only to find themselves lost. For them, retirement becomes a void, a space where purpose and meaning once existed, but no longer do. This phenomenon is not limited to a few isolated cases. It is widespread, affecting millions of people across the globe. Studies have shown that retirement can have serious negative effects on mental and physical health. In fact, research indicates that the risk of depression, anxiety, and even early mortality increases after retirement. A study published in the journal Psychological Science found that retirees are significantly more likely to experience a decline in mental health than those who continue to work. The very act of stepping away from a structured environment, one that provided a sense of purpose and identity, can lead to feelings of disorientation and existential crisis. But why does this happen? The answer lies in the way we've been conditioned to view work and identity. As we discussed earlier, many people's sense of self-worth is tied to their careers. When that career ends, so does their sense of purpose. It's as if the foundation of their identity crumbles, leaving them adrift. Without the structure of work, retirees often feel lost, with no clear sense of direction or accomplishment. The days become an endless stretch of unstructured time, and the prospect of filling that time meaningfully becomes overwhelming. This crisis isn't just psychological, it's existential. Without the need to contribute, without the constant push to achieve, many retirees begin to question the very meaning of their lives. In his book, The Wisdom of Insecurity, Alan Watts argues that the fear of being nothing after retirement is a byproduct of living in a society that places such high value on doing, on achieving, and on producing. The absence of work brings a confrontation with the self, and for many, this confrontation is uncomfortable and unsettling. They are forced to confront their own mortality, their own impermanence, and the deep questions about the value of their existence. Yet the problem runs even deeper. We've been led to believe that retirement is the reward for a life well lived, but for many, it's a trap. The promise of leisure, of freedom from work, is appealing at first. But without the constant stimulation and fulfillment that work once provided, many retirees find themselves struggling to fill the void. The joy they expected to find in leisure and relaxation quickly dissipates, leaving them with a growing sense of regret. It is the paradox of retirement. What should be a time of liberation often becomes a time of anxiety and regret. But there is hope. The key to avoiding this crisis lies in rethinking what retirement truly means. Instead of seeing retirement as the end of work and the beginning of rest, we should view it as an opportunity for reinvention, a chance to explore new passions, develop new skills, or contribute to society in a different way. The mistake is in thinking that retirement is an escape from life. In reality, it should be an extension of it, a time to live more fully, not less. Many people who experience the crisis of retirement find fulfillment by seeking out new challenges or engaging in activities that bring them joy and meaning. Some start businesses, others volunteer, while many take up hobbies they had long neglected. The key is to find purpose beyond the paycheck. True fulfillment comes not from avoiding work, but from embracing life in all its complexity, finding meaning in the small moments and contributing to the world in ways that are personally fulfilling. The modern-day retirement crisis can be avoided, but it requires a shift in perspective. We must stop seeing retirement as the ultimate goal and start seeing it as an opportunity for reinvention, growth, and continued contribution. By doing so, we can move beyond the illusion of freedom and embrace a life that is rich with purpose and meaning, even in our later years. After exploring the crisis of retirement and the illusion of freedom it promises, the question arises: how can we break free from this societal trap? How can we reclaim true freedom and live a life of purpose regardless of our age or stage in life? The answer lies not in escaping work or responsibility, but in changing our perception of them, and in reclaiming the power to define our own lives on our own terms. True freedom, as we've discussed through the lens of Alan Watts's philosophy, is not about avoiding the responsibilities of life, but about embracing them fully. It's about living authentically, in alignment with our true desires and values, and letting go of the notion that life should follow a prescribed path of work, followed by retirement. The key to reclaiming freedom is not waiting for a specific moment in life. It's about finding freedom in the present moment, regardless of our circumstances. So, how do we begin this process? The first step is to confront the underlying assumption that work is something to be escaped. Society has taught us that work is a burden, something to endure until we reach the promised land of retirement. But this mindset only serves to reinforce the cycle of dissatisfaction. Instead of viewing work as an obstacle, we need to see it as an opportunity, a chance to express ourselves, to create, to contribute. This shift in perspective is the foundation of true freedom. We must also break free from the narrative that our value is determined by what we produce or achieve. So often, we tie our self-worth to our career, our income, or our status. We are taught to define ourselves by external markers of success. But true freedom comes when we reject these external definitions and embrace the internal ones. It's about recognizing that our worth isn't based on what we do, it's based on who we are. When we no longer need to prove ourselves to society or adhere to its expectations, we become free to live authentically. The next step is to redefine what retirement means. Instead of seeing it as a final destination, we must view it as a new beginning, a chance to explore new passions, learn new skills, and contribute in ways that align with our authentic selves. Retirement should not be the end of our journey. It should be a continuation of it. It's an opportunity to pursue the things that we were too busy to focus on earlier in life, to engage in work that brings us joy and meaning, even if it's not financially motivated. But true freedom also requires courage, the courage to step off the beaten path, to live life on our own terms. This may mean taking risks, facing uncertainty, and challenging the norms we've been conditioned to follow. It's about embracing change, uncertainty, and imperfection, and trusting that by doing so, we will find a deeper sense of fulfillment than we ever could by chasing after the illusion of retirement. One of the most powerful tools in reclaiming freedom is mindfulness. Being present in the moment, cultivating awareness, and developing a deep connection with our inner selves allow us to break free from the societal pressure to always be doing. We realize that we don't have to wait for retirement to experience freedom. We can begin to live fully right now. Finally, we must learn to embrace the idea that life is a journey, not a destination. The pursuit of freedom is not a one-time event, like the moment of retirement, but an ongoing process of growth, discovery, and self-expression. By shifting our focus away from the idea of escaping work and instead embracing life as a series of opportunities to learn, grow, and contribute, we can reclaim the true freedom that lies within each of us. As we've journeyed through the layers of this myth, the illusion of retirement as the key to freedom, we come to the sobering realization that everything we've been told about it may not only be misguided, but intentionally constructed to serve a system. The dream of a blissful retirement, free from the demands of work, is not the freedom we've been led to believe it is. It is, in fact, a trap designed to keep us working, complacent, and unfulfilled. But the good news is that we don't have to fall into this trap. The truth is that we are not bound by the narrow definitions of success and freedom that society has imposed upon us. True freedom is not about escaping the world of work. It's about transforming how we engage with it. It's about breaking free from the illusion that we must work towards a singular goal of retirement in order to live a meaningful life. Instead, we can begin right now to live with purpose, to seek meaning, and to find fulfillment in every moment. This is the ultimate wake-up call. You don't have to wait until you're free from work to start living the life you've always wanted. True freedom is found not in escaping the demands of life, but in embracing them fully, authentically, and in a way that aligns with your deepest values. Life is not something to endure until retirement. It is something to live fully and passionately every single day. So ask yourself, what is the life you truly want to live? It's not one that follows the script society has written for you. It's one that is uniquely yours, one that embraces freedom in the present, not at some distant future point. It's time to let go of the myth that retirement is the answer and start living the life that truly reflects who you are and what you value. As Alan Watts wisely said, the most important thing in life is to let go of the idea that there is a destination. The destination is the journey itself. Stop waiting for freedom. Take it now. Reclaim your life, your purpose, and your true freedom before it's too late.